bite to eat, and we both pull up a seat. Alone at first, alone at a table with you. Parties for a birthday, not mine, but the USA. The 4th of July, the same show every year. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. And she pulled up a chair. I had noticed a longing stare, but didn't expect what she was about to say. She must not have known who I was, thought I wasn't with you, because she started talking about last night with you. Well, I threw back my chair, thinking of you two as a pair. And when the fireworks flew, no one knew what to do. She turned red, you turned white, I turned blue. She turned red, you turned white, I turned blue. That day a lot, whenever I'm at that spot. The 4th of July, barbecue with you. That was the day I knew your love wasn't true. And I turned blue, blue with the thought of losing you. I never would forget the scene, the colors louder than any screen. At the moment when true colors shone through, that's when she turned red, you turned white, I turned blue. She turned red, you turned white, I turned blue. I turned blue, I turned blue, I turned blue, I turned.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Williams.
I'm here.
Councilmember Berry. Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Siemens.
Present.
Councilmember Snipper.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, the first thing, council comments, I'd like to just note that Councilmember Clay and Councilmember Wright are both not going to be here this evening. And maybe I'll just continue and say that one of the things that I wanted to note was that the Wednesday Tacoma Park Farmers Market, which was supposed to have its grand opening last week on Wednesday the 4th, had to cancel a number of the special activities that were going to take place because of the threat of bad weather, and that threat had a terrific follow-through when the storm came in about 15 minutes after the truncated market started and proceeded to wipe out the farmers market. So they're going to try again this week, so there will be the slightly delayed grand opening of the Wednesday farmers market this Wednesday, June 11th, and that's from 3 to 7, and it takes place on Holton Lane across from the post office and next to Aldi. So there will be special events, live music, various giveaways, and lots of produce and baked goods. So come one, come all to the Tacoma Park 2nd Farmers Market. Are there any other council comments? Councilmember Siemens.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to give the community a little update on the Independence Day celebration planning. I want to let you know that things are moving along well and getting many entries for the parade. I encourage anyone who has a neighborhood group or some other cause that they would like to advertise that this is a great opportunity to put an entry in the parade. It can be anything as simple as a group of people walking through with signs and banners, but we also like to see more imaginative and creative things that are either humorous or of interest to the community, not limited to music or real lawnmowers. I do want to also mention that the activities on that day are supported in a great part by community donations, and I wanted to let you know that donations are running a little behind this year, but we had a fundraising yard sale on Saturday that was very successful, and I would just like to, given the weather that we have had in the last couple of days, really thank the volunteers that came out, both city residents and some people from Silver Spring, that came out and spent a very hard Labor Day in very hot weather. Really appreciate the dedication. The entire project was run on water, and it's a dedicated group of people, and I'd like to thank them. And today was another hot day, you may have noticed, and again, I would like to thank the volunteers, including we have a couple of them here today with Diane Berkeley and Norman Ridgway. Thank them for their help with the Manna Food program today. As you can imagine, any of these projects are double hard when it's so hot out, and the Manna project requires physical labor, just as the yard sale did. And so I thank Diane and Norman and all the other volunteers who came out today to help with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Barry.
Yes, following on Terry's comments about the parade, I was just going to observe that with all these great snacks that we have back here and over the months, it's likely that several of us will be entering as floats, and not in our not in our usual capacity of riding in the vintage vehicles that are usually lined up for us. I would like to point out an article in the Washington Post on Saturday. I think it was in the real estate section, and it featured D.C. Tacoma Park, but in doing so, it made reference to Maryland Tacoma Park. This is D.C. Tacoma. And in the process of telling the story, there was a map, and there were numerous very flattering and, of course, true references to Tacoma Park. Among them, the people in Tacoma, D.C. were saying that they like to live on that side because of the proximity to Old Town Tacoma Park, and of course the architecture, which in some ways many ways resembles the architecture to be found here. Excuse me. And they also like the diversity of the community. And the values of it, and those are the reasons why they, in many cases, have chosen to bring their families into the area. So all of that, of course, makes my ears perk up when I see a story like that, and it reminds me of several other references in the Post in the last month and a half, all of which were quite favorable. Never once did I read the kooky environment of Tacoma Park, the left-wingers, the former Peace Corps people, the radicals and liberals. None of that was said tongue-in-cheek or directly, and instead they talk about the great diversity, the beautiful trees, the interesting architecture, and the welcoming sense of community that people have living here. Yes, there was a reference to the Prius driving Tacoma Parkians, but I thought that was very favorable because, once again, it puts us at the forefront of the environmental movement, where certainly we feel we deserve a place. So I'd like to point out to the city staff and my council colleagues that each one of these references is quite valuable to the city. Certainly probably worth tens of thousands of paid advertising if we had the money to do it, and instead we're getting it free, and we're getting it frequently. And I don't know what the secret is or the formula, but whatever it is, I'd certainly like to keep doing it. And anything that we can do to have those positive references in the mainstream media of this community, it's all to the good, because it brings people in who would not necessarily know us otherwise. They come to shop, they come to attend our events, they come to look at housing here, and of course that helps sell the number of houses that we have on the market now, and will push up the value of the real estate in the community. But more importantly, will bring people here who and we want to share in the great sense of community that we've created. And so all of that promotion is, I think, very valuable to us, and we should try, if we can, to replicate it wherever we can. Sorry for that.
Councilmember Robinson.
Whatever it was.
I went to California to visit friends and family for a family wedding over the weekend, and stayed and hung out, if I can use a 60s kind of term, with an old friend, and he lives in a small town that's very similar to Tacoma Park in many ways, and he's been very involved in their recreation issues and efforts, and a lot of other things that are similar in issues and that are similar to the issues that we face here. And it was fascinating talking to him, and I'm just going to say that I look forward to talking to him more and doing some kind of compare and contrast study of some sort with that town and maybe other towns that are similar to us, so that we can get hints and improve our own structural efforts and ways of doing things. So I want to tip my hat to somebody from out of town. Thank you.
Just one final observation. If I can check with the city manager and see if my memory is correct, that as part of what was presented for the, what was it, option C for the refurbishment of this room into a more multi-purpose auditorium, am I correct in remembering that dealing with the HVAC system was part of that proposed project? Good, because it's not doing its job tonight. So I apologize to anybody in the room who's feeling not quite as cool or dry as you might expect in an air-conditioned space, but I think this original piece of equipment is doing its best, but it just doesn't seem to be good enough. If we can move on to the next item, we have the presentation of a GFOA, and I'm going to take a stab and say that's the Government Finance Officers Association. Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and I believe we have Mr. Charles Curtis with us, who's the Assistant Director of Accounting for Prince George's County Office of Finance, and he's going to make a presentation. So if you'd like to go to the podium. Welcome.
Thank you. Got to excuse me. I have to read the script. I do this a lot all over the state of Maryland, and I'm told I have to read this word by word, so bear with me, because it's accounting. I know. It's my job. I can say it's boring. I know that, but I have to read my speech.
Boring? You haven't seen anything.
Hang around. Okay. Okay, here we go. I'm honored to be here today on behalf of the Government Finance Officers Association to present the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Tacoma Park. The certificate program has been in operation since 1946. The purpose of the program is to encourage and assist governments to prepare financial reports of the highest quality for the benefit of citizens and other parties with vital interest in government finances. The program has gained widespread recognition as a premier indicator of excellence in governmental and financial reporting. To earn the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, governments have to substantially conform to the program's demanding criteria, which go well beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles. And I'll go off the script for a second. This is actually what I do in Prince George's County, and you know, for me to get a good performance appraisal, we have to get this certificate every year, and it is very, very difficult. I think it's harder than people think, because GFOA changes their rules every day, it seems like. So what staff that put this together, I can say personally, I know how much effort they put into it. But unfortunately, back to my script. The program participants submit copies of their report to the certificate program for an in-depth review by 2 members selected from an impartial panel of government finance officers, independent certified public accountants, educators, and others with specialized expertise and experience in governmental financial reporting. Reports are also reviewed by GFOA's professional staff. Only those reports judged by all reviewers to substantially meet the program criteria are awarded the Certificate of Achievement in Financial Reporting. I'm actually a reviewer for GFOA, and I know the review sheet is about, I want to say about 40 pages thick, and there's probably about 200 criteria that you have to go through and check off and make sure that they're all met. Today's presentation, I believe, marks the 2nd consecutive year the City of Tacoma Park received the award. Such a record reflects professionalism, commitment of numerous individuals, as well as many hours of hard work. It also reflects a high degree of dedication and leadership on part of elected officials. Therefore, it is my privilege, on behalf of the Government Finance Officers Association, to present the City of Tacoma Park and City Manager Barbara Matthews the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Congratulations.
Thanks very much for coming. And congratulations to the city manager and the finance director and the finance staff and whoever else had a hand in making sure that all of the various criteria were met. I know it hasn't been easy.
No, thank you for that, and I would like to take this opportunity just to thank Ms. Brooks and her staff. Quite frankly, while I have the privilege of having my name on it, most of the credit goes to Yvonne and her staff. I decided to honor her in the best way possible tonight by not making her be here and letting her have an evening at home. So,
a double honor. Just a quick update on the agenda. One additional item to note for tonight is that we have a 4th interviewee for the Hospital Land Use Committee. Diane Robinson-Berkley is also going to be interviewing for that committee. So you have additional information at your place with the salmon sheet for that one. And then just a couple quick notes about the upcoming agendas. One thing I wanted to point out, a recent addition to the rolling agenda today is that next Monday, the 16th, there will be a resolution of support for a Class B beer, wine, liquor alcohol beverage license for Tijuana's Mexican Cafe at 949 University Boulevard. So anybody who has any interest in that item, that has just popped up on the rolling agenda. And then if I can also just point out that in addition, next week we're going to have a work session discussion of city committees. The following Monday, there will be no city council meeting since the city council and some senior staff will be at the Maryland Municipal League annual convention in Ocean City. At the end of the month, June 30th, we're going to have work session items on reports from both the Board of Elections and the Recreation Committee, which should get us well on our way in our discussions on recreation issues. And also like to note that June 30th, County Council Member Valerie Irvin will be giving us an update, and the following meeting, July 7th, County Council Member Mark Elrich will be here providing an update as well. So that's some upcoming items of interest on the agenda. At this time, we'd like to hear any public comment for anybody who would like to comment on any items that are not on the voting meeting tonight. So any comments on the budget would be appropriate as we discuss the budget, but any comments on any other items, this would be the time to do it. And if you can please identify yourself and keep your comments to 3 minutes. And if I can just note that I've been having a mighty battle with the buzzer and light system to note 3 minutes, and still working on some options to make that a little clearer to folks. I've been given the little gavel a little bit closer. I know it's hard to hear this this timer, but it does go off. And for those of you who can see the little lights, I don't think too many people actually look at them. They do give an indication of when the 3 minutes are up. So I'd appreciate any cooperation in trying to keep comments to 3 minutes, and Mr. Lovelace is always wonderful at keeping his comments exactly to 3 minutes. Your internal timer is wonderful.
Yep, my name's Pat Lovelace, 7620 Maple Avenue, Tacoma Park, Ward 4. One thing I'd like to tell people, you people and everybody else, is we got to let people know that Sunday we're having the Jazz Festival. We're going to be electing a king, and we're going to be having a parade this year in Old Town Tacoma, I understand. And I understand, what is it, from 12 to 4? There's going to be lots of good music down there. It's going to be one of Tacoma Park's finest events out there, so everybody should come down there. They'll be able to come down and see the shops and everything else, and see all the architecture like we've been telling you about. And also, people can come in from outside of Tacoma Park. Bring your friends, bring your family, so that we can finally show people what Tacoma Park really is. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there on the on Sunday, this coming Sunday. Yep, it's going to be great. The 15th, I understand. So come on out, everybody. Enjoy yourself, enjoy the weather, and enjoy Tacoma Park, one of its greatest events. Also, school is letting out, I understand, pretty soon, too. There's a lot of graduation parties going on. And I'd like to have people encourage the students to stay away from the liquor and stay away from the drugs this year, so that we have more people next year to graduate. Also, it'd be nice if part of their graduation package, not just a diploma, but we also should try to see if we can get voter registration cards passed out to the people who are graduating from the high schools, so that they can enter, that can be their right of entering adulthood. Instead of going out and having a beer party as a rite to passage, we should celebrate it to bringing out new voters, people registering to vote. They can get the voter registrations, they can fill them out, and they can turn them in as part of becoming an adult, part of becoming a responsible citizen, part of becoming an activist, and part of becoming part of Tacoma Park, you know, and serving the country and the state and the city that they live in. Because I think we're going to have one heck of a good election this year. If we get enough people out there voting conscientiously, I think we have a chance to make some change this year, considering it's a presidential election. And I'd like to see every high schooler that's graduating pick up a registration form. And if possible, I'm wondering if the city could have some registration forms passed around the schools so that the teachers can give them to their students. Can that be done? Can the city pass out registration forms to the schools so the kids can register to vote when they graduate? That would be a wonderful thing, because a lot of kids, you know, they're just going to want to just graduate and get out. But it'd be really things. They could have a diploma in one hand, voter registration in the other, and then they can enter adulthood. There's grown-up, responsible adults in our city. They go from childhood to adulthood. Let them represent Tacoma Park. Register them to vote. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And if I can just make a couple quick comments on things you brought up. The Jazz Festival this year, I believe the theme is New Orleans, and a lot of the music is New Orleans themed, and some of the money raised is going to be sent to New Orleans to help families down there in their efforts to rebuild. And also, thanks for reminding me about the event that was supposed to take place last Wednesday, another event that got knocked out by that same storm. Since there was no power in the chambers, there was supposed to be a very good event on alcohol and drug awareness, and particularly directed toward teens and their families, and we're trying to reschedule that as soon as possible, hopefully before the end of school, and so that will be coming up probably in another week or two. Yes? No? No? Well, we're hoping. And on the question about passing out information for registering to vote, I know that the county provides that, but I'm not sure what their efforts are in getting that information to the kids at school, and maybe we could have the city clerk in her function as staff for our city Board of Elections to see what the county is doing and see if there's any gap that we can fill there. So thanks for that suggestion.
That would be a great way of showing our city cares about our youth by helping them register to vote.
Thanks for that suggestion. Yes.
So my name is Jackie Davison, and I live at Victory Tower on Carroll Avenue. And my question is regarding Jazz Fest. As you know, we have a parking lot in front of our building, and I want to know what department is responsible for notifying residents along Carroll Avenue that they either have to come out and park on the street in order to have, you know, access and to get in. So we've received no notice. We usually receive a notice for the festival, but none so far. And people are, when I announced at our meeting that Jazz Fest is taking place, people were a bit upset because June 15th is Father's Day and a lot of visiting. So who would notify us?
Does the city manager have any information on that?
No, I can check with staff. Typically, the Public Works Department and the Police Department will work in terms of any kind of notifications regarding, you know, street closures. I will check with them tomorrow, ma'am, and see if we can get some more information for you.
And do we know for sure that the street closure is going to include in front of Victory Tower?
I think it's actually,
yeah.
it's quite a large stretch of Carroll.
It would be from, my understanding is the Bank of America to Tulip.
Right.
All of that would be closed off.
So Willow to Tulip.
What's that?
Willow to Tulip.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
We'll
May I
make
call your office, or can I?
I think, ma'am, I may have your number on your application for one of the city committees, so I know how to get a hold of you.
All right, thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move to the city manager's comments.
Just two brief items this evening. About a month ago, I had provided the council with copies of two draft bills dealing with the issue of mansionization or infill development. Wanted to share with the council that I have learned that those bills are moving forward through the county council. I need to double check to see if the drafts I gave the council have been modified before they were introduced. But I will be speaking to the mayor tomorrow about how we should get this on a future council agenda so that you're familiar with the provisions of the bills that are before the county council and how we might determine if the city wants to actually weigh in on that officially. So I'll work with the mayor on that process. The other thing I just wanted to mention, in case the council did not see it, is there was also an article, I believe it was in Saturday's Metro section of the paper, dealing with the crime that is being experienced in the Hyattsville district of Prince George's County, and there was considerable focus on the percentage of crime that is actually happening in Langley Park just across our borders. That is something that the chief and I have been talking about, and I think we've seen some problems in our own section of the city just across the border in Ward 6, as we talked about last week. The chief has made copies of that article for the council, and I will get that in your box tomorrow. I think certainly it's an area from the police department's perspective that we should keep in contact with the Prince George's County and also just watch that part of our city as well.
Thank you. Any questions for the city manager? Okay, then we will move on to our scheduled interviews. First up are the folks for the Adventist Hospital Land Use Committee, and that's Jacqueline Davison, Rodney Hackett, Norman Ridgway, and Diane Robinson Berkeley. So if all of those of you who are here could come forward and have a seat at the table here. And I'm going to take a guess that we're missing Rodney Hackett.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mayor. I neglected to tell you before the meeting started tonight, but Rodney's wife took ill suddenly and has to be transported to the hospital, and so he's accompanying her and apologized for not being present tonight.
Thanks. If I could start by having each of you say who you are and tell us a little bit about why you're interested in being in the committee, and I'll start with Diane.
Hi, my name is Diane Robinson Berkeley, and I've been in the community for about 2 years. And the people, they're interested in making different things with when the hospital moves. I want to help them to make sure that their requests be at least looked at and thought about. there's a few things that we discussed when we had our meeting that is very interesting, as far as maybe making good use of the hospital grounds. And basically, that's what I want to do, have my voice in with helping the people get what they want.
Norman Ridgway. I've been here since 1991. The hospital has saved me many a day, and I want the hospital to stay here, but nothing else be made in the hospital grounds.
I'm Jackie Davison, and I'm a resident of Victory Housing, Victory Tower. And our residents feel very strongly about Adventist Hospital. I mean, we have relied on the emergency room and on medical services, and the residents were very vocal during the whole process of deciding the relocation. I just moved in there in 2005, so I haven't been there long, but so my interest is in representing the interests of our residents and seniors in the surrounding community. I already have a great suggestion, so that's my interest.
Are there any questions? Councilmember Smith.
Well, first I want to thank you all very much for stepping forward to be on this committee. You're all relatively new to the community, although actually I've been here a bit. I've been here a long time, and one of the things that I love about Tacoma Park is that people will step up and volunteer to be on these committees. The City Council needs your help, and we really appreciate your doing this. As you know, the hospital has proposed to move. It's not a done deal. There's a lot of steps before that gets approved. It'll be at least 5 years before they move if everything went absolutely perfectly from their point of view. And that gives us an opportunity to plan for what to put on that site if they do move. And so I'm really glad that you all will bring your perspectives and expertise. I hope and urge you to speak up on in those committee meetings and have your say on the whatever the topic is, because we need your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the things that I found interesting in these interviews last week and this week is that many of the people that come here, such as yourself, have pretty strong feelings about wanting to keep some type of medical facilities there on the site.
Yes.
And I think the important thing to remember for everybody to remember with this committee is it's really looking at how is that land going to be used. And I'm sure that all the members that end up on the committee are going to have their own personal agendas of what they would like to see. But the trick for any committee is to balance your personal interests with the other interests that are on the committee, and also because you are there representing the people in your neighborhood, to bring other ideas to the table and discuss them. And I just want to make sure that you all feel comfortable with doing that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also thank you all for coming forward and working on this, offering to work on this important committee. I've been thinking about this committee in a kind of a technical way, land use and zoning and so forth. But on reflection, over time, I know that the hospital, when I last heard, the hospital intended to keep that space, and also to put on it something that fits into their into their charter, their mission and their charter, so that that's an opportunity to shape it. And that means the technical part that you'll be asked in part to come up to speed on is what is their charter and their mission, because that's how you're going to have to work with the hospital and how they do business and want to do business. But it's also it's a real opportunity because they're in the business of health care. So I think you have an opportunity there. So again, thanks for offering to work on this.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all very much, and we should be making appointments to this committee quite soon, and we will let you know.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good evening.
You're not staying with us?
Yes, but I won't stay with you all night.
Next, we have an interview for the Emergency Preparedness Committee. Rosa Sanchez.
Good evening, the council members. My name is Rosa Sanchez, and I live in 7411 Aspen Court, Ward 2 in Tacoma Park. And I'm here because, like they said, they love the community. First of all, I love working with people, and I feel like I want to support my community. I want to be the voice of my Latino people. Yes.
And do you have any particular background or experience dealing with
I do.
emergency preparedness?
I have been working with the Intact Silver Spring, and I have a lot of skills and knowledge with working with people with different diverse backgrounds, and I feel like I have that, working with other people, building relationship with other people, and I feel like I can do that in my community.
Good. Any questions for Ms. Sanchez?
Well,
First, I do want to thank you for agreeing to serve on this committee. And I agree with you, we need diversity on this committee. We need people from different backgrounds to be on it, because partly so that they can communicate with the rest of their friends and family and so on in the area. And it's better for those communities to bring their concerns through your voice to the committee. Hopefully, emergency preparedness will never be necessary. That would be ideal. But as we all know, that isn't how it works. We can easily have fires, floods, and all kinds of other things happen. So I just wanted to thank you for agreeing to be on the committee.
You're welcome.
and I'm welcome also, and I'm happy to hear that you've had experience with Impact Silver Spring, because I've become a little familiar with their work, and I know that they've got energy and expertise.
We do, yes.
Yes, indeed. Very good. And planning is a really important aspect of anything that we do. And as Ruben says, as Councilmember Snipper says, the plans never quite work the way you think they're going to, but the planning exercise is crucial and important. So thanks for being willing to do this.
And Rose, I'd just like to thank you. Let my colleagues know that I've known you for some time, and I have full confidence in your abilities working with the community and helping to reach community members, which is often a difficult task. So I thank you very much for stepping forward to volunteer for this, and I think it's a great committee to use your talents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you. And we will be making appointments to that very soon as well. I don't think I see Ms. Karen Rodney Hapala here. She was due to be interviewed for the Arts and Humanities Commission. We will try and reschedule that. So we will move on to our various budget ordinances, a series of second readings of those. And the first one up is the second reading ordinance adopting the FY09 tax rate. We have discussed the budget, the tax rate, and all of these various things through a fairly extended period of time, starting in April, and with a long concentrated period of double meetings in May. We had our first readings last week. I'm hopeful that the council has mostly made the comments that we need to make, and we can move through these fairly quickly. I'm assuming there may be some council comments, there may be some public comments, but we've done this a number of times now, and hopefully we can get through these fairly quickly. So would somebody like to move the second reading ordinance?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Barry, seconded by Councilmember Snipper. Are there any council comments on the FY09 proposed tax rate? Any public comments on the FY09 proposed tax rate? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
Nay.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Snipper.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, the tax rate passes. Next up, we have to convene as a Stormwater Management Board. Would somebody like to move that?
Move.
Second.
I think that was Councilmember Snipper moved and Councilmember Siemens seconded. Would anybody like to move the FY09 stormwater budget?
So moved.
Second. Did this one.
No, no, that was just convening as the board.
Yes, you're right.
That was moved by Councilmember Barry, seconded by Councilmember Snipper. Any comments on the FY09 stormwater budget? Any public comment on the FY09 stormwater budget? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Snipper.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, that passes. Next up is the second reading ordinance adopting the FY09 budget, including the CIP. Would anybody like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Barry, seconded by Councilmember Snipper. Any council comments on the FY09 budget, including the CIP? Any public comments on the same? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
No.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Snipper.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, that passes. Next up is the second reading ordinance adopting FY09 AFSCME pay plan. Somebody like to move that?
Move.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Snipper, seconded by Councilmember Barry. Any council comments on the AFSCME pay plan? Any public comments on the AFSCME pay plan? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Snipper.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
And that passes. And the final one for tonight is the second reading ordinance adopting the FY09 management and non-union staff pay plan. Would somebody like to move that?
Second.
Oh, a different combination. Moved by Councilmember Snipper, seconded by Councilmember Robinson. Are there any council comments on the management and non-union staff pay plan? Any public comments on the management and non-union staff pay plan? Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Barry.
Aye.
Councilmember Clay. Councilmember Robinson.
Aye.
Councilmember Siemens.
Aye.
Councilmember Snipper.
Aye.
Councilmember Wright.
Okay, all of those have passed. We are now scheduled for the final agenda item in this meeting, which is a presentation on the Purple Line and Transit Center. And I know that Mike Madden is here. Do you need any time to set anything up? Okay, so we'll take a short break. We'll come back when the clock in the back of the room says 8:20 and proceed with the presentation.
office is in, well, my only office is in Baltimore, but I spend a lot of time down here in both Montgomery and Prince George's County, and I've met with and coordinated a lot of things with Suzanne as well as both of the counties and also the city of College Park and the city of New Carrollton. They are all part of what we call a project team, and we go through some of the major issues, and when we have new information, we come out to that project team. But tonight is a briefing focused a little bit on the overall project, but then mainly on areas related to Tacoma Park, including Tacoma Park, Langley Park, and also Silver Spring. So first, we're going to go through some basic overall information in terms of where the project is and things like that. This is an overview of the project. It is 16 miles extending from Bethesda, would connect into the Silver Spring Transit Center. It would continue along University Boulevard, would go through the crossroads area where the transit center would be built by then, hopefully, and then continue on University Boulevard and then go directly through the campus of the University of Maryland. And along the way, it does connect both branches of the Metro Rail Red Line, and then also to the Green Line at College Park, the College Park Metro Station, and then also to the Orange Line at New Carrollton. In addition, it connects to all three MARC commuter rail lines, the Brunswick Line at Silver Spring, the Camden Line at College Park, and then the Penn Line and Amtrak at New Carrollton. So it is a real connector, and it is a connector that is intended to fit into the community. It's not the same as a metro system, but it does provide a lot of connections, both to the Metro Rail system, to the other rail lines, to the local bus systems, and also in between activity centers, from one activity center to another. And it would connect to the University of Maryland, which is the largest employer in Prince George's County. Right now, we're evaluating up to 22 stations. Okay. This is a map that shows the different alignment alternatives. We have two different options in the Bethesda area, one on what is called the master plan alignment, which is the old Georgetown Branch right-of-way, and one on Jones Bridge Road. You may have read about that recently in the paper. The low-end BRT is the only option that is on Jones Bridge Road. All the other alternatives, including all the light rail alternatives, actually would operate on the master plan alignment. BRT is bus rapid transit, thank you, and light rail transit is the other option. All the project would then extend along the south side of the CSX corridor, go into the Silver Spring Transit Center. It would actually be, there is space available for it in the transit center. There would be one level up above the Metro and the MARC platforms, and then it continues east across Georgia Avenue. Then there's a couple different options. One is an underground option that goes along Silver Spring Avenue and then goes behind the homes that are on Silver Spring and Thayer Avenue, and then eventually connects into Piney Branch, would serve the Arliss Street, Piney Branch Avenue area with the station. The other option continues out of the transit center and goes on Bonifat Street and then connects, it would connect into the Montgomery County new Silver Spring Library, then would continue on the surface along Wayne Avenue, and the light rail options, once they get east of Sligo Creek, the grade is such that it would have to go into a tunnel. The BRT options, the bus rapid transit alternatives, could stay on Wayne Avenue up to Flower, and like I said, we would have a station in the enterprise zone area. The project then basically goes on Piney Branch Road and takes a right turn onto University Boulevard, goes through the Crossroads area, and we have a couple different options through the campus of the university. It would go across Route 1 and serve the East Campus development, and then connect to the Green Line at College Park, continue down and connect to Maryland 410, continue on Veterans Parkway, and then into the New Carrollton Station. These are some of the main project goals. Again, connections between the Metro Rail line, the MARC lines, and Amtrak, serving transit-dependent populations. We do have a lot of residents who do rely heavily on transit throughout the corridor, especially in the East Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, Langley Park areas. Support the local, regional, and state master plans, strengthen and revitalize the communities along the 16-mile corridor, and then also improve access and connections between the various activity centers and employment hubs along the corridor. These are the alternatives. We always evaluate a no-build alternative, compare that in terms of impacts to the build alternatives. No build is just what's out there today in terms of the transportation infrastructure. And then the TSM or baseline alternative is looking at what can we do to improve the transit service without a major capital investment. So it's some changes in the bus routes, some additional bus routes, also some signal prioritization and things like that to make the bus routes a little quicker and hopefully a little more reliable. And then we get into the main build alternatives. We have 3 bus rapid transit alternatives and 3 light rail transit alternatives. They vary from the level of investment and also from their improvements in terms of when you go from the low to the medium to high, you have more dedicated lanes, more separate right-of-way, in some cases tunnels and overpasses to get through points of congestion. So as you increase the amount of investment, you improve the travel time, and in turn, you also increase the ridership estimates. So these are the different alternatives. Again, 3 BRT and 3 light rail. The travel markets, most importantly, it is more than a circumferential market. It does serve markets connected to the regional metro rail system, both in the corridor itself and outside of the corridor. We have 4 radial metro rail lines that provide very good service from the suburbs into the downtown. What we don't have is something that connects them east-west. This project actually started out of the Capital Beltway study, where they were looking at, can we widen and provide more capacity on the Beltway itself. Out of that came transit alternatives. So what we've seen is this is probably the only chance we have to improve east-west travel. That is the purple line. It does provide a new set of links in the extensive regional system, would help to promote transit-oriented development along the corridor, and it features improvements in terms of travel time and reliability. These are the ridership and the cost estimates. They range from the low of 37,000 daily boardings. This is someone getting on in the morning and then getting off in the evening, and all the way up to 68,000 daily boardings. The capital cost also vary widely from $420 million up to $1.75 billion. And what we have realized is that these ridership numbers are good. They're very good. They compare very favorably with other systems that have already been implemented, with other systems that will compete eventually compete for the limited amount of federal funds available. Some more information in terms of the ridership. Approximately 40% of the riders will use Metro Rail for at least a portion of their trip, in addition to using the Purple Line. Primary mode of access will be people walking, people taking the bus. We are not providing additional park and ride facilities other than what's already out there at the metro stations. The largest market is the Bethesda to Silver Spring portion of the project. Also indicated there are the new transit trips relative to the TSM alternative. What this tells us is that there are some new riders, but the majority of the people who will use it are people that use transit today. This will provide a much improved option for them. These are the daily boardings by station. These might be hard to see, but I'll give this to Suzanne, who can print it out for you all. Some examples in terms of the ridership. The Silver Spring Transit Center, not surprisingly, generates a lot of ridership, all the way up to 13,600 daily boardings a day. And then even in the East Silver Spring area, Dale Drive Station would generate around 1,500. Manchester Place, as we go a little farther east, is 1,200. And then in the area of Arliss Street and Piney Branch, that station could generate up to 2,200 daily boardings. The transit center itself at the Crossroads would generate up to 3,700 daily boardings. We also have, obviously, good ridership connecting to the College Park Metro and then also to New Carrollton. So these are the individual stations, the boardings based on the current ridership, based on using the current Council of Governments model. And then these are the actual travel times. For instance, from Bethesda to Silver Spring, under the high investment and the medium investment LRT, we're talking about a travel time of 9 minutes, going from the new entrance at the Bethesda station, a new southern entrance, to the transit center at Silver Spring. Also some representative travel times that you all may be interested in. From Tacoma Park to College Park varies from the low bus rapid transit option of 16 minutes down to 12 minutes. Tacoma Park to Tacoma Langley Crossroads to Silver Spring, similar 16 minutes down to the 12 minutes. And Tacoma Langley Crossroads to Bethesda varies from 37 minutes down to 20 minutes. In terms of this project going forward, one of the key factors has to do with the cost effectiveness after the preferred alternative is selected, which we'll be having public hearings on the project in the fall, and either by the end of the year, December of '08, or the beginning of 2009. That's when the state would determine what is the preferred alternative. After that is when we submit what's called a New Starts report to the Federal Transit Administration. That's when they officially rate the project, not until you have that preferred alternative. You've read a lot about the Dulles project and the process it's gone through. It's already gone through that process. It's been rated. We think this project will clearly meet the cost effectiveness threshold that the federal government has set for projects like this. In addition, so there's a rating given to the project in terms of high, medium, and low. You have to get at least a medium rating. Project justification, the mobility, the cost effectiveness has to be at least a medium. You also are rated on the financing, meaning you have to show that you have funds committed to build the project, but also to operate and maintain it over the life of the project. What they're looking for nowadays on transit projects is a 50% share. By law, you could receive up to 80% federal money, or not. In highways, you can get up to 90. But for transit projects, it's much more of a rigorous process, even to be eligible for funding. And right now, the most that you can obtain in federal funds is 50% of the project cost. The other 50% needs to come from the state and the local jurisdictions, from the local side, or private funding if that's involved at all. Again, for cost effectiveness, you must get a medium rating. It's kind of a pass-fail. If you fail that, they don't even consider the rest of the options. You fail. Even if you pass all the other factors and requirements and you fail this one, they won't pass. They won't make the project won't be eligible for federal funding. So you need to get at least a medium rating in cost effectiveness. Cost effectiveness factors, you take the operating and the capital cost, analyze that, and then the benefit side has to do with the ridership and the travel time savings for those riders. Then there's some other benefits that go into that. Estimated reduction in vehicle trips. What we've done here is there's been a lot of comments that people say, well, are you going to relieve traffic congestion? And the answer is no, we're not going to relieve traffic congestion. We will be taking some cars off the road. We will be reducing some of the vehicle trips, but it's not necessarily going to relieve traffic. Again, these estimates, you have to remember, or we have to evaluate the ridership numbers and things like that out to the year 2030. So even the vehicle trips are out into 2030. We've broken this down for instance, in the Tacoma-Langley, at the high end of LRT, it would reduce the number of vehicle trips by roughly 4,000. And then there's a little bit higher, up to near 6,000 in the Silver Spring area. Again, this is broken down by segment along the project.
And to put it in context, I've heard over the years that 75,000 cars go through this intersection of New Hampshire and University North
Right.
and South. Is that about right?
That sounds about right. Yeah. So this is not a real significant number, but it does provide some reductions in vehicle trips. In terms of Tacoma Park, as we've tried to identify some of the benefits, as I mentioned earlier, it may be the only option, only chance we have to improve east-west travel. There are transit-dependent populations within the corridor. It would help to reduce the reliance and the need for autos, supports development objectives for the Long Branch area. Also, Purple Line would provide connections at the Tacoma Langley Park Transit Center. You had a question?
Another quick question. We computer nerds always talk about something called scalability, which is what if it's really successful? Can you add more? Can you go with a crowded system and add more buses or light rail?
Well, the light rail vehicles, the platforms would be built roughly 200 feet long, and that can accommodate either two 90 feet vehicles or three 60 feet vehicles. So you will be able to add capacity up to a certain point for the project.
Are these assuming you've got them coming as quickly as possible?
Well, our ridership estimates right now are based on a 6-minute headway during the peak period, and then 10 to 12 minutes in the off-peak.
Okay. The 6 is the smallest headway you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, that means a train every 3 minutes in one direction or the other coming through. These are the different alignments in downtown Silver Spring. I'm not sure if you all have questions on that? You want to go through this in more detail in terms of what the alignments look like? Probably not. Okay, we'll go to the next. I don't know whether this will work, but this is a video here. We click on the, oh no, the next one, I'm sorry. Click on the picture. Maybe it's not. I don't know if it's going to work. Yeah, there we go. This is a video in the area of Wayne Avenue and Cedar. And we have a slide later on on Wayne Avenue, we've determined the best option. If it's running on the surface, we do have some tunnel options, but if it's running on the surface, the option that works best is actually for the light rail, the inside lanes would be shared with traffic. That way we can maintain the two traffic lanes in each direction. We looked at dedicated lanes. One of the problems is if we provided new dedicated lanes, that would widen the right-of-way and cause a lot of impact to the community. The other option would be to take a lane of traffic away, and that makes traffic worse. So we've done the analysis, and our conclusion is that the shared lanes, if it's running on the surface, is the best option. We don't lose that much in the way of travel time.
I was going to ask you, do you get, cars get in the lane and,
What we do is we provide separate turn lanes. We provide new turn lanes for the traffic so that the transit way is not caught up at the light with waiting for somebody to turn.
They make really good cow catcher.
Yeah.
Push them up.
Okay, let's see. Can we go back? Can we go back to Dale? Oh, that's Cedar. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. Up to Dale. There. Now, if we click on that.
Okay, how did you do this before? I didn't see what it's.
Special.
Oh, this, I didn't see it.
This is at Dale Drive where we would have a station on the surface. This is the intersection of Dale Drive. This is the station would be in the middle.
Like the T in Boston.
Yes.
My daughter loved it.
Okay. We'll just go to the next one. Okay. And we can click on this one. I'm sorry.
Sligo Parkway.
Yes. Another video. This is coming up the hill towards Sligo Creek Parkway.
Is this on Sligo Creek Parkway?
No, it's on Wayne Avenue. The videos, yes, the videos show how the intersections would work. Okay? Okay. Okay, Wayne Avenue. These are the different options for the Wayne Avenue alignment. A tunnel from the Silver Spring Transit Center up to Wayne in the area of Cedar. The first slide I showed, I think, was a tunnel portal. That's one of the impacts you would have with this tunnel option, is you would have a portal right in the street. And then we also evaluated a longer tunnel at the request of the community that goes up to Mansfield, just a little bit west of Sligo Creek. And then on the surface, we evaluated the dedicated, the shared with left turn lanes. And the next slide tells us what our finding is, and that is that in terms of how it would operate, the transit would operate best with the shared lanes with additional turn lanes. What that does is allows the on-street parking in most areas during the off-peaks. The shared lanes would not significantly increase cut-through traffic, one of the key community concerns. The addition of the turn lanes helps to improve the traffic over the no-build alternative even. And basically, we feel it's the best balance of community concerns along with the transportation operations. The project then continues on University Boulevard through the campus of the University of Maryland. These are some of the ongoing coordination that we are carrying out. The Tacoma Langley Crossroads sector plan, we've worked closely with them. Obviously, the Tacoma Langley Park Transit Center, which is a project on its own schedule, and then working with State Highway and the communities and counties in terms of how we design University Boulevard to get some kind of a boulevard concept if we can. These are this is the schedule and the next steps. Again, we would have public hearings in the fall in September or October. After that, the preferred alternative is selected, and then we would request this to enter preliminary engineering and also submit this new starts report to the Federal Transit Administration. We would complete that next phase, that detailed preliminary engineering, and then initiate final design in July 2011. Earliest construction could begin is 2012. In terms of funding, we do have recently $100 million added to the project. That's to go towards the design of the project. What we don't have is we don't have money to build it yet.
Just for the council, the public hearing scheduled for September 2008, we would want to have a statement to be prepared for that.
Yeah. I do have a briefing on the transit center also. This is also a very brief update on the transit center. In terms of the benefits, it would provide bus stops for all the 11 different routes that pass through the crossroads area, would provide weather protection, waiting area, a break room, and also public restrooms, route information for passengers, bicycle storage areas, spaces for buses, in terms of a layover space, also improvements aimed at pedestrian safety along with what State Highway is out there doing today. In addition, opportunity for public art. This is the existing conditions. Right in the middle there, proposed transit center. Below that is the Taco Bell. This would remove the Taco Bell, build the transit center right in the crossroads area, crossroads of University Boulevard and New Hampshire Avenue. We've also identified all the different routes and the bus stops that exist today. All of those, except for the white ones, would be consolidated into the transit center itself. Objectives of the project include providing a safe, attractive, efficient facility for the buses for people to transfer from one bus to another, improve pedestrian safety, create a sense of place within the community, meet operational bus needs. We're accommodating all the existing routes, plus providing space available for some expansion of those bus routes, established clearly understood pedestrian and bus movement patterns, provide a comfortable waiting area for passengers, enhance the image of transit, accommodate the future Purple Line, and also minimize impacts to the shopping center itself, although the attorney would tell you otherwise. Project background, Maryland State Highway began their intersection improvements and pedestrian safety improvements a couple of years ago. They should finish up, I believe, by the fall. They began in the fall of 2006. There has been 2 different appraisals and 2 different offers for acquisition of the property. Needless to say, the property still hasn't been acquired. This is the design of it, which shows the 12 bus bays. There would be 3 bus bays on University Boulevard itself for the buses that are continuing in that direction to pull over and use. There also would be 2 bus bays on the New Hampshire Avenue. Up at the top is a bus-only entrance for the transit center. Most of the buses, all the buses would enter through there. Most of them would come back out of there, except for those that would continue on New Hampshire Avenue. They would go across and out on New Hampshire Avenue. So again, some of the WMATA longer route buses would just pull over either on New Hampshire or on 193, but the other routes would all, the ride-on routes would all come through the transit center itself. Same with the University of Maryland shuttle system and the Prince George's County bus.
And the purple line
Yes.
is run down the middle of the university.
We've got a slide. This is a perspective of what it would look like in the transit center. This is our current design. It does not, it hasn't gone as far as adding color and things like that yet. Another concept of what the transit center would look like. This is inside the transit center, where we, on the other side of that is the Maryland National Bank. That we would include some kind of windscreens to help, again, to make the area comfortable. Across the way, yes, she's extremely happy. She's in Langley Park. Why shouldn't she be? This is another perspective along New Hampshire Avenue. In the background, along the blue post, that's where the building would sit. In terms of the purple line, although these don't have the correct number of lanes, on University Boulevard there actually are 3 traffic lanes. We would be adding a dedicated lane. If it's light rail, those lanes would be in the median. The inside lanes, if it's bus rapid transit, they would be on the curb lanes. So we're missing 1 lane here. But the idea is that the transit center would stop right along the edge. The purple line would stop right along the edge of the transit center. Where we would widen is to the other side, so we would not have to tear into the transit center itself. And then if the project is elevated, because of the high-end option for light rail, we do have aerial crossings at both the intersection with New Hampshire Avenue and also at Riggs Road because of the congestion. In that case, the transit center would be a little bit closer the purple line would be a little bit closer on an elevated structure right next to the transit center. Benefits, all the bus stops would be consolidated in this area for easy access and transfer from one route to another. Again, secure, safe area for passengers to wait. Buses would have real-time bus arrival information, route maps, schedules, things like that. No buses out on Lebanon Street, the crossroads. We've coordinated with the Crossroads sector plan, and we intend this project to be a landmark for the community. In terms of funding, we do have money to build the project. We do have money to acquire the property. Property acquisition is where we're stuck with. What we're doing is we're continuing to go to final design on the project so that once the right-of-way is available, we'll be able to move on the project. Eventually, it may come to condemnation or a court case. We're not sure what's going to happen in terms of the right-of-way. Any questions on?
Okay, we'll turn on the lights, and council members can go back up on the dais, except for our technical assistance, which we really appreciate.
Thank you.
Do I, can I keep a copy?
Yes. I was just finishing this.
Did we
You did a great job. Like, why don't we kind of sit at this table?
Oh, sure.
Thanks very much for the presentation. That was very informative and timely. And sorry for the technical glitches. My understanding
okay.
was we had some computers that got wiped out by a water problem, and we were assured that the one that was provided had PowerPoint, and it didn't, but thanks to Councilmember Snipper for his helpful technical expertise.
Yes, it was very helpful.
And if I can just start out with one observation and one question. The observation is that the purple line almost wiped out that computer. The purple line, as you characterize it, is the opportunity to improve east-west transit. And it seems to me that the difficulty that we in Takoma Park always face when we're talking about traffic problems and any number of other issues is that we end up being the commuted upon mainly in the east-west direction. You know, originally it was east-west highway, then it became the Beltway, and then it became anywhere you can go, any way you can get through. And improvements like the transit center for the bus station and the purple line connecting what it does would seem to be the thing that is available to address some of our most urgent needs in terms of dealing with other problems, and also present some opportunities. I know that there have already been some there's already been some movement by various national corporations toward eyeing what the potential is, and it brings a lot of potential for economic development and other things that go along with this. It was interesting that when I saw an analysis by somebody where they basically said, yeah, improving the transit for the people who need it the most helps in the short term, but in the long term it can just mean that those opportunities for economic development can also bring additional kind of upward mobility of the people who move toward the transit, and over the long term it eventually pushes out the people that in many ways it was designed to help. Have you kind of thought about those
Yes,
those
we
issues?
have, and I know that is always a potential, but I also know that both counties have policies in place to try to remedy that, and we certainly would support that in terms of maintaining. I mean, an area like Langley Park, there's so much apartment so much rental. I can't imagine that it would just completely change in that area.
One of the things I'll piggyback on is that certainly is something that the Tacoma Langley sector plan is looking at as a way to preserve affordable housing, keep the businesses that are in the area there, while also accommodating more housing, better organized commercial development accessible to the transit stop. So I think it's being taken very seriously by the planning
Good.
groups in both counties.
And the question I have is, I guess that first one was a question too, but I know that there's been a good bit of talk and a good bit of legislative action around dedicated funding for Metro and understanding the difficulties of having a system that doesn't have that dedicated funding. And I was wondering how that discussion and how that movement has informed thoughts about how the Purple Line would kind of deal with that same issue.
Well, from a capital program standpoint, we have a dedicated source of funding. That's the Transportation Trust Fund. Now,
But in terms of ongoing maintenance after it's built,
that would be up to the trust fund itself also. But obviously, based on the needs that the state has now, all over the state, there'd have to be some additional revenues to the fund as it stands today in order to be able to withstand the cost of this project, along with other, there's two other projects in Maryland that the state is evaluating, the Red Line in Baltimore and also the Quarter Cities Transitway in Upper Montgomery County. And the intent is to try and find a way to fund all three of them. So there will have to be additional revenues put in the trust fund, either through the increased gas tax or sales tax or some other way to do that.
okay. Other questions, observations? Councilmember Barron?
Yeah, it's a good point, because so much of your presentation, which was excellent, points out that this east-west corridor and the improvements envisioned, really fit in with the larger system in the area, which includes Amtrak and MARC and VRE and so forth. And here we would have a brand spanking new 16-mile east to west transit corridor. And then if you have a situation where the rest of the system is falling apart because the federal government has not sufficiently funded anything at this point, instead choosing to spend its money elsewhere, it almost seems like the rest of the system needs to be properly funded as well in order for this to work as in its maximum level of efficiency. So I guess the question is, have you thought about that? This being the newest addition to the system, which looks as if it's growing increasingly in disrepair, with all of the players looking for additional funding at a very difficult time, but at the same time when gas is now exceeding $4 a gallon for regular, and may be well beyond that by the year 2011 when when the ground is broken.
Well, I know for the Dulles Rail project, that was a concern of the federal government. There's a lot of pressure on the existing metro system, and concern, are they able to keep it up? And all I could say is that the state's committed to that, keeping it up, and that will be looked at by the federal government when they look at this project also, not just the funding of this project, but can the region as a whole keep up the metro system, because the two systems will interconnect, the two systems will rely on each other.
Yes, and a follow-on too, if I may, and that is, one of the other themes in your presentation was, bringing these communities closer together that are on the east-west axis. And it would seem to me that by building this system, we would be in a position to bring College Park even closer to where we are now, and that would provide an opportunity for the University of Maryland to have a presence here in the corridor, which it now lacks. And then that leads to the question, which is, what do you see, given the sector plan and all of the other things that are happening in parallel, but are also very closely connected? What do you see as the opportunities for the Tacoma-Langley Crossroads in particular, if one of these systems comes into existence?
What do I see for this area? I see a level of investment in the community that's never taken place, and it's been long neglected, and I think both the Transit Center and the Purple Line can completely turn those communities around from an economic standpoint, from a design standpoint, from a pedestrian safety and things like that. Can completely turn those areas around. The University of Maryland itself, you mentioned, that is one of the key groups that will benefit from this project. I mean, we're talking 35,000 students and 14,000 employees, the largest employee base in Prince George's County.
So this could become a kind of technology corridor with the Purple Line linking all of these little
and
cores.
We've already seen that from the university, in that the Purple Line would go right directly through East Campus development, in addition to going right through the main part of campus. And it would also connect to the M-squared research along River Road. So we're starting to see that already.
Very exciting. Thanks.
I thought it was a great presentation. I'm on the on the Purple Line Now board's
great.
lobbying group there, and so needless to say, I'm a big enthusiast of this. One question I had is, I've heard a lot about the, I'll call it the Crescent Trail and Golf Club issue. Do you have any thoughts on, based on other experience you've had with community opposition of groups like that, dealing with both the trail and the country club? I mean, should we be worried about it? For example, do you think the trail issue can be addressed by how it's designed?
We've gone out of our way to do that, and I don't have the visuals with me tonight, but we do have we have worked extra hard to make sure that the transitway and the trail next to it are compatible. Along the Chevy Chase area, the right-of-way is 66 feet along the majority of it. When it gets to the golf course, it actually widens out to 100 feet. So some of the greens, some of the golf cart paths, one of the tees, they've all encroached into the right-of-way that's owned by the county. We do have sufficient room in 66 feet, though, to build both a transitway, and then we have roughly a 10-foot buffer, and then we have the trail, and the trail is a 10-foot wide trail with 2-foot shoulders. That all fits in the 66 feet right away. The other thing we've done is we've put the trail on a side where it follows the lay of the land better, and in most cases the trail is elevated 4 or 5 feet higher than the transit would be. And so there are things that we've done. We've also made the commitment that along that area, the transitway would be built in grass tracks, which is another thing that we've seen a lot in Europe and different places where we do see light rail next to trails. They do exist in this country and in other countries.
Speaking of which, we've been lobbying for that along University and in a number of these places, that having the grassways adds an awful lot of aesthetic and environmental value.
Yeah, and in some cases, besides stormwater management, it can also help a little bit in terms of noise if you're on that kind of a track bit rather than a hardscape. So we have gone out of our way. There were the majority of the opposition in Chevy Chase seems to be really people whose houses back up to the right-of-way.
Yes.
And they're always going to be opposed to the project.
Right.
You know, because right now they can walk out of their backyard and they have a trail, an interim trail sitting there. They don't have a transit way. And they have an unused, basically, except for people walking along it or biking, they have an unused right-of-way that's owned by the county that was purchased specifically to build a transit way and trail. Obviously, there's trees grown up in there, and they'd like to keep it the way it is. So they're never going to support the project, at least those people that back up to it. The country club is a completely different issue. We don't hear much from the country club. They're in the background, and we've met with them several times, but they've never been interested in working with us like other communities and the counties and all and developers in terms of let's get down to the nitty-gritty and design of what this would look like. All they have done is to insist that they're going to fight the project, they're going to sue or whatever. So they haven't really, we've tried to engage them in design discussions, but they haven't been willing to do that at this point. They've just been busy fighting the project. So all I could say is under the current administration, I don't think they're afraid to go through the country club.
They have raised a good-sized war chest to
yes.
fight it.
Yes.
Can I just make sure that my understanding is correct about the origins of the route in that area that you've just been talking about? My recollection is that that was a railroad right-of-way and was always...
It was there before the golf course.
It was there before the golf course. It was there before the houses.
Yes.
And so that anybody who put anything along it knew it was there. And when the railroad tracks got taken up or stopped being used,
right,
everybody should have understood that it was being held for future transit use, and any interim use as a trail was an interim use, not a trail that should therefore kind of always be protected as why would you take it for transit? It's because the trail took it from transit.
That's correct. And we've looked at and discovered that the majority of those homes were purchased after the right-of-way was already on the master plan. So when they bought their homes, they knew.
Or should have known.
Oh, they knew. They would have been, by Montgomery County law, they would have been informed of it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thanks very much.
Okay.
We wanted... Well,
one other word, and that
okay.
is that you know, the ridership numbers and things like that are all good news. And we've recently had another round of open house meetings, which were very positive in May. The more we go on, the more positive feedback we do get, although there is some opposition that will always remain. I think what we've heard a lot is people are really beginning to realize that this is a real project now. It's not just pie in the sky. We do have money to design it. The project looks like it will be cost effective, and it's going forward.
Well, thank you for that good news.
Sure.
Because we've been hoping for that kind of good news for a long time as we've supported the gestation of this project. And
sure.
We look forward to providing any input and any support that we can as we go forward. And hopefully we'll have a lot more options for East-West Transit and a lot better transit system in place sooner to address current needs.
And if I can do a final word, I do want to thank Mike Madden. He and his staff have done a terrific job. Come out to everything.
Right.
And really has worked with the community on very specific, this house by this house kind of issue. which is what it takes, but it's also been done in good spirits throughout, which isn't easy to do. So I want to just personally acknowledge his excellent work on the project.
Yeah, I agree too. I've attended several of those, and you and your staff have done a terrific job at presenting the material and also responding to community input and so on.
Great. It's helped us a lot.
Yeah.
Every time we go out to the community, it I think helps to allay some people's fears, but it also we learn a lot from it.
Yeah, you get some good ideas. I heard some good ideas.
Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks.
Do you need to?
And the last item for this evening is that we have a closed session scheduled. We need to vote to go into closed session to discuss matters that relate to collective bargaining negotiations with the United Food and Commercial Workers Local 400 pursuant to Annotated Code of Maryland, State Government Article Section 10-508A9. Would somebody like to move that?
Second.
Well, I think I'll go with Councilmember Barry moved it and Councilmember Seaman seconded it. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Any opposed? Unanimous in favor of it. So we will adjourn this meeting and move into closed session.
Well, I was born a rambling man. Yeah, I was born for distant lands. Never meant to settle down. Yeah, I was born to move around. And then she came to me. Yeah, she was all I could see. I held her close every night. Train roll out of sight. Well, I dreamed of things to be, of a life just her and me. And for so long it was I'd like to see before I die. Well, I just sit, my bags unpacked. I hear that train rolling down the track. I hear that lonesome whistle whine. That side's hers and this side's mine.
Atrévete, si tan solo una vez. Atrévete, a buena hora yo te dejé. Tanto tiempo botado, me voy ahora, te veo después. Pero no me duele tanto, pues de la fiesta ya te boté. Atrévete, si tan solo una vez. Atrévete, a buena hora yo te dejé. Atrévete, y tu careta se va a caer. Atrévete, mi hermano, pues aquí nadie te quiere ver. Sé que tú te colaste, estoy seguro no te invité. Otra vez fallaste, ahora vas para tu te quieres chapalla. Atrévete, y tu careta se va a caer. Atrévete, pues aquí nadie te quiere ver. No te compliques en la vida. Sigue lo tuyo, continúa tu gira.
John Deere tractors to the farmers in my little town. On delivery day, he'd have my daddy's way and say, Sonny, can you take 'em around? Well, if I was in luck, I'd jump in the truck while my daddy situated the load. And with a wink of his eye pop and wave goodbye, we'd head off down an old dirt road and we'd sing, I'm a long, tall Texan, thank God I'm a country boy. Never heard sweeter harmonies or contemplated greater joy than bumping down the road in the flatbed truck, sitting by my daddy's side. I'd trade away my expedition today if I could have another ride. We'd bounce along, singing songs, putting peanuts in our soda pop. Daddy liked to tease and squeeze my knees and say, whistle when you want me to stop. Sitting on my throne like a little queen bee, I never knew another girl as lucky as me. Living out my Laura Ingalls fantasies while heading back to Papa's shop. And we'd sing, I'm a long, tall Texan, thank God I'm a country boy. Never heard sweeter harmonies or contemplated greater joy than bumping down the road in the flatbed truck, sitting by my daddy's side. I'd trade away my expedition today if I could have another ride. Well, that big old truck was yellow and green, the ugliest old thing I'd ever seen. But I wouldn't trade it for a limousine when my daddy'd say, let's go ride. 'Cause we'd sing, I'm a long, tall Texan, thank God I'm a country boy. Never heard sweeter harmonies or contemplated greater joy than bumping down the road in the flatbed truck, sitting by my daddy's side. I'd trade away my expedition today if I could have another ride. Well, my daddy always knew that the tractor business wasn't his idea of fun. So he left one day and said, I gotta play, and now he's working on his hole-in-ones. Oh, the lesson I learned from my daddy, it seems, is that you're never too old to follow your dreams. So I'm hoping that I'm packing just a few of his jeans, 'cause I got a little dream of my own. I wanna sing, I'm a long, tall Texan, thank God I'm a country boy. Wanna recreate those harmonies and contemplate my greatest joy, like bumping down the road in the flatbed truck, sitting by my daddy's side. I'd trade away my expedition today if I could have another ride. Yeah, I'd trade away my expedition today if I could have another ride.
Aquí le traigo un sabor, es maduro y de papo entero, y cantando yo espero que sepan reconocer que esto si viene de dentro, siempre procura de tener. Yo cambio mi repertorio para complacerme. Yo sé que siempre meto la pata y lo cuento como pasa. Toma ahora esta taza de ritmo que yo he colado. Siempre de saber a casa y también lo he merengueado. Ahora tiro yo con bomba para usted que lo ha Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Ahora tiro con bomba, a usted que no lo ha bailado, a usted que lo ha bailado, este ritmo lindo se ha dado. No le diga no a mi bomba, si usted no la ha probado. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Ahora tiro con bomba, a usted que no lo ha bailado. Aquí les traigo el sabor de un sonerito menor que le gusta mucho el tambor y que canta con dolor. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Ahora tiro con bomba, a usted que no baila. Esto es lo que le vengo, vamos a gozar a lo lindo. Pasa aquí el vino tinto y regresemos al principio. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Tome la taza del ritmo que con amor la hemos colado. Siempre he venido en salsa y también lo merengue. Esta cosa ya ha empezado, terminemos madrugando.
I remember the water in the walls in my old home, finding faces in the grain. I remember seeing pictures of China in a geographic magazine. The hole in the floor, my dad's Nash Rambler, that always got us home again. Buttercup held up under my chin and playing army man. I remember the smell of the wind in the springtime, flying in my dreams. I remember the quiet cold of winter and busting at the seams. I remember firing a Remington rifle, hey, driving a John Deere. I remember running down the fence line and playing in the rain. Yeah, I was playing in the rain. I was playing in the rain. I was playing in the rain. I was playing in the summer up on the Black Bridge and the water down below. I remember watching all the big kids for the stuff I didn't know. Load up the bales of 1-ton pickup, down and wait for us to leave. Oh, dirty hands and dirty faces, yeah, all my friends and me. I remember Mr. Starks and my dad fighting. How he knocked my father down. I remember seeing snow fall on the dead leaves. Didn't hardly make a sound. I remember hearing Corey whisper, hey, you better put that out. Jump down now, turn around, please show up, or you're bound to throw us out. I remember how the sunshine at east and the creek below the dam. I see now, must have been my mother, maybe most of what I am. Seen every tree and every flower, and call them all by name. Look back now, sometimes and wonder, but I won't throw that time away. No, I won't throw that time away. 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 Throw that time away.
Hello, baby. Yes, it's really me. After all the wrong I've done, I guess you're surprised to see me here at your door, like a sparrow with a broken wing. Who's come back to beg you? Oh, reconsider me. Reconsider me. I can't make it, no, without your love. Can't you see? Stay with me, oh, let me love you, yeah, eternally. And baby, reconsider me. I learned the truth, yeah, about the so-called good life. Well, it was just a candle, way too short to burn the night. Now there's a darkness way down in my forgot the past. There's just a day, and I think it's gonna last. I'm in my car, I hear your voice, I start to drive, I have no choice. Your music haunts, the road is long, I must confess, the feeling's strong. Every day is a brand new day. It's been so long since I felt this way. Can't see the future, forgot the past. There's just a day, and I think it's gonna last. Every day is a brand new day. It's been so long since I felt this way. Can't see the future, forgot the past. There's just a day, and I think it's gonna last. I see your smile, I call your name. We share a laugh, we share a dream. We go outside, the moon is high. I find it hard to say goodbye. Every day is a brand new day. It's been so long since I felt this way. Can't see the future, forgot the past. There's just a day, and I think it's gonna last. It's been so long. It's been so long. It's been so long.
I can tell that you're changing. You're so far away, it seems. And soon you'll be rearranging every one of my dreams. Yes, I know you'll believe it. Off to find a better day. But tonight, let's keep believing. We can dance the night away. So tonight, put a ribbon in your hand. Tonight, take the stockings from your drawer. Tonight, wear your very finest dress. And be my pretty lady with your pearls and curls once more. There'll be time enough for grieving, time enough for the pain. But tonight's for make-believing. You'd like to hold me close again. Yes, tonight we'll be forgetting. We'll do the crawl, the two-step too. Yes, we'll do that fancy stepping. The way you always like to do. And so tonight, put a ribbon in your hand. Tonight, take the stockings from your drawer. Tonight, wear your very finest dress. And be my pretty lady with your pearls and curls once more. So tonight, put a ribbon in your hand. Tonight, take the stockings from your drawer. Tonight, wear your very finest dress. Be my pretty lady with your pearls and curls once more.
Fair young maid, all in her garden, strange young man comes riding by, saying, fair young maid, will you marry me? This dear sir was her reply. Oh no, dear sir, I cannot marry, for I've a love who sails the deep salt sea. Though he's been gone these 7 years, still no man shall marry me. What if he's died in some battle slain? For if he's drowned in the deep salt sea, what if he's found another love, and with his new love both married be? And if he's found some other love, the end is true love, both married be. I wish them health and happiness, where they live now across the sea. He picked her up all in his arms, and kisses gave her 1, 2, and 3, saying, weep no more, my own true love, for I'm your long lost John Riley. Saying, weep no more, my own true love, for I'm your long lost John Riley.